I just want to do a quick video about a subject that's sort of been doing the rounds last few days, and that's Bailey Cadamartri. Now, Bailey's a young striker. He plays in the youth teams and he's been scoring goals this season. He's scored a lot of goals the other year. He's had an injury. He's come back, and I think he's got 5 in 3, something like that. Now, obviously, people see the goal scoring record. They see the first team struggling to score goals, and so it's been taken off. I've seen it on a lot of different platforms. People are like, stick the kid in, can't be worse than what we've got, so there's that. I can't get on board with that at all, and there's several reasons why I can't get on board with chucking a lad into the first team at this moment in time. The first thing is the gulf. I cannot reiterate enough the huge gulf between kids football, and that's what under 18, under 21 football is, and adult professional league football. I mean, there's a huge gulf between the Championship and League 2. There's a big gulf between League 2 and semi-professional, both in physicality, speed, quality. The gulf between the Championship and under 21 and under 18 academy football is absolutely massive. I genuinely cannot emphasise that point enough. Go and watch some. Go and watch the tempo of it. Go and watch the physicality of it. It is a world away. A world away. Now, I know what the argument will be. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And people can cite examples of the past like Rooney, But I mean, Wayne Rooney was a world-class talent. He also had the same physique as a 15-year-old as he's got now. I suspect he dropped out at womb weighing about 12.5 stone. But a world-class player is a different thing entirely. The gulf is massive. And like I said, I think people just see the stats. He's scoring a lot of goals, stick him in. Genuinely, it's a huge gulf. Go and watch some. The second reason I can't get on board with it is the lad's just had a very serious injury. He's had a double hernia operation. That needs to be managed. He needs to be managed back to full fitness. So his game time needs to be monitored, his rest time, his recuperation, his work in the gym, everything else. That all needs to be monitored by the academy physio staff and the managers, and we've got to trust them to get him into the best place and get him back where he needs to be to carry on his progression. A relegation dogfight against the likes of Swansea is not the place for the young lad coming back from a double hernia. In fact, I'd argue it's not the place for the seasoned professional coming back from a double hernia. And I've long said this, I've said it in videos last year, and I still think there's a place in the game for a well-structured reserve league. So first team players who have got knocks can come back and be eased back in, rather than just weeks in the gym and then thrusting. And equally, I think it would benefit young kids, and they are kids, in the under 18s, under 21s. And the reserve can be used as a stepping stone to the first team, a way of integrating into men's football, getting used to not just playing against experienced pros who might be on the comeback trail themselves at other clubs, but being in a dressing room themselves with our experienced pros who might not be in the first team. It's a subject all on its own probably, but I do think there's a place in the game for the reserve league. The third reason I wouldn't stick the young lad in is this weekend is apparently what they call Game Week 8. That's another Americanism that's sneaked in the game. But Game Week 8, and Wednesday is still without a win. There's huge pressure on the team, huge pressure on the manager. Do you want to be sticking a young kid in and feeling that sort of pressure? There's a lot of negativity in the stands surrounding the manager, the team, the lack of results, the lack of goal scoring. Do you want to stick a young kid in there under that pressure? Now, some of them will sink and some of them will swim, but why would you stick a kid into that environment? Especially a centre forward, because when a team's not performing well, when a team's not winning games, it's usually because they're not scoring enough goals. All the players are under pressure, but no players on the park bear the burden of pressure more than centre forwards. It's a huge burden of pressure for players, experienced players like Lee Gregory, Michael Smith. It's a huge burden for them to be sticking kids in there with that level. I think it's too much, and you can risk damaging their development by sticking them into that negative environment. Especially in a team that's not creating chances. Just going to be running around, not creating chances, not creating goals, negativity in the stands, the team struggling for form, cohesion, rhythm, confidence. If you've got 30-year-old blokes struggling for confidence and you're sticking a young kid in there in that environment, what's it going to do for them? Now I can think back 20 odd years, I think it is now, players like Geary and Quinn and Bromby, they were all thrust into Wednesday's first team. We've got a huge debt obviously to the bank. We weren't spending a lot of money on players, and those kids were thrust in, and they were thrust into a struggling team. Now they weren't allowed that time to develop as young players, and when they left Wednesday they all dropped down the league, you know what I mean? Now they did go on to have decent careers, ironically rescued from the lower leagues by Neil Warnock, who sort of built them back up to something. But that initial damage of being thrust in there in the limelight in a struggling team with no experience, they haven't been through those situations before, it can be crumbling. Now, we're probably quite lucky in that sense that Steve Adderslem, who was running the academy, he was a player himself who was thrust into Wednesday's first team as a young lad in a struggling side at times. And he will be more aware than anybody of the damage that he can do mentally and the pressure that it can put on a young player in there. So I think he's in a great position to be able to know and judge when Bailey Cadamartri is ready for the step up. Another reason I can't get on board with sticking the kid in there, not just the gulf between championship football and kids football, not just that he's coming back from a double hernia operation, not just that Wednesday is struggling to create any opportunities at all, and not just the negativity surrounding the team and the huge pressure, but Fifth, could we genuinely trust they did actually play up front? Because that's a key thing, he's a young striker. At the moment, the way things are going, if he was called up into the first team, do you think he'd play up front? Or do you think he'd be, oh, they've called that kid up, great. Oh, he's playing at left back. You know what I mean? That's the damage that can be done. I'm not saying he's not going to be a first team player. I'm not saying he's either going to make it and have a good career or he's not going to make it and have a good career. I think he's clearly got the potential. He's finding the net a lot in the kids. He's a big lad for his age, although there's a difference between being a big lad and fully physically developed, which will not happen until probably his early 20s. But there's a time and a way to integrate a player into a team, a young player into a team. Wednesday is struggling. They're not creating chances. They're in this relegation dogfight. Experienced players, 25, 30 years old, look like they're struggling for confidence. You don't want to be putting a kid in there, in that environment. There's a time and a place to integrate kids like that. If Wednesday were going out and dominating teams, winning games 2-3-0, then yes, by all means, have a young lad in there with plenty of potential. And we're winning 3-0, there's 20 minutes to go. Come on, son, go out there, have a run about, get some experience. Just go and do what you do when you're playing for a kids' team. Go and express yourself. You can't be sending young kids out and saying that in a team that's really, really struggling. Really struggling. So, for me, 4 or 5 reasons. I think the lad has got great potential. But for me, shouldn't be anywhere near the first team at the minute. It's important that we trust the coaches to get him through this rehabilitation and back to full fitness and help him progress as a player. And they will let the manager know, or perhaps even a new manager know, when he is ready. Anyway, just my views on it. I'm sure many people think he should be thrust in there. But for the time being, let's just look after the kid.